Hello, and welcome to the Bigger Boat podcast. So this is a new podcast that we're starting, which is talking about films. Do you want to introduce yourself? Who are you? What are you doing here?
My name's Joe, and
you had to think about that for a second, didn't you?
Of course I did. This is going to happen quite a lot.
Okay.
Just to put this into a little bit of context, it's a very warm day, and in fact I think it might be the hottest day.
Is it so far? On record?
On record, maybe this year anyway. Plus England have just beaten Sweden, so
yep.
We're all quite excited.
And we're on the Pims.
So if you occasionally hear us drunk...
if you hear us drunk,
which sounds like I already am, you know why.
So you're Joe, I've always called you Joey, but you always introduce yourself as Joe.
Yes, the birth certificate says Joe.
Okay.
And then if you actually look at my birth certificate, there's a slash after Joe in my surname, which looks like Joel.
Does it?
Yeah. It's like, Mum, I called Joel.
Who did the slash?
Whoever filled it in. So yes, we are in Hampshire recording this, and I have a film production degree just to do a bit of showing off, and I'm sure you're all saying, well, you've probably done nothing with that, which is absolutely right. we're in the cinema. What were we watching? Solo.
Yeah,
yes.
That's right.
So right before Solo started, Luke said, I've got something I want to run by you, and kept me in suspense for the whole movie.
I said, you seem at a loose end.
Yes. You don't seem to be using that degree. And so we went to a Wagamama's afterwards, and Luke said,
should we do a film podcast?
It's like, yes. It's like, what kind of thing were you thinking? Because there's quite a few around.
Oh yeah, my name's Luke, by the way. So we were thinking, we had the idea, and I don't know if anyone's done this before, but it doesn't really matter if they have. But I thought, wouldn't it be nice just to hang out with Joey more regularly and watch a film a week and go through a director's back catalogue chronologically and just spend some time talking about the movie? Just to get a bit of insight into that director, to watch some movies we maybe haven't seen before, and to revisit some old classics as well, and just have a little chat about them.
So like, we're children of the 80s. We were both born in 86.
That's right, yeah.
And so I think this is kind of an excuse to look back over this particular individual who we haven't revealed yet.
I think you can tell we're children from 86 because we're starting a podcast and we're millennials. I think that's what we do these days.
Yes, we're a bit late to the game, actually.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, I only found out what a podcast was last week.
Anyway, why don't you tell them who we're going to talk about?
Why don't I do some tension-filled music and you can reveal who it is? Okay, here we go. Dun dun. Dun dun. Dun dun.
I see what you're doing there. It's very clever. Dun, 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 dun. It's Michael Bay. Of course it's not. It's Steven Spielberg.
Yes, we hope we didn't fool you too much.
But yes, we're going to talk about Steven Spielberg. He's probably greatest living filmmaker of all time. You think?
Question mark?
I think so. Well, I think even if you don't know films, you know who Steven Spielberg is.
That's right.
You know his movies. You've seen his movies. I think at least until like the late 90s, I think there's a fun fact that a third of all of the biggest box office taking films had been either made or produced by Steven Spielberg.
Wow.
Could you say he invented the modern blockbuster?
Yes, possibly. It's probably between him and one of his friends, George Lucas, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Spielberg is definitely like a studio guy, whereas Lucas always wanted to be left field. He always wanted to be sort of an art director, but he somehow ended up making this massive blockbuster.
Yeah, sure.
By which we all sort of structure our movies around now.
Mm-hmm. But with stuff like Jaws, which was Steven Spielberg's second big feature film.
Yes, and that came out before
that was 75, wasn't it, or something like that? Yeah.
75, yeah. And of course, Star Wars was 77.
And throughout the 80s as well, he was making the biggest films, wasn't he? And even into the 90s.
Yeah.
Huge blockbusters.
Maybe we should mention that for a moment, so we were born in 86, so we are not really the Star Wars generation. It's sort of people who are good 10 years older than us can actually remember going to the cinema to...
His big sort of childhood films that I think a lot of people grew up with, the Indiana Joneses and stuff like that. This was all stuff that was introduced to us, I guess, in the 90s or so, stuff that our parents watched that they made us watch as well. E.T. as well, stuff like that. We weren't alive when that came out.
A lot of those directors are called movie brats as a sort of nickname, which is Lucas, Scorsese, Spielberg, Coppola. Like, you shouldn't underestimate the effect that television had on those guys. So, like, they saw a lot of classic movies on television.
Yeah.
And then they put those into their movies and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, like, Lucas was there watching, like, King Solomon's Mines and stuff.
I don't know that film.
Well, it's really, really similar to Indiana Jones.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
Right,
so
okay.
it's sort of Indiana Jones before.
Okay.
Indiana Jones, in a way, is almost a pastiche of those.
All right. Okay. Those sort of movies, those tributes.
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think your introduction to Spielberg was? What was the first movie of his that you remember watching?
I mean, I can remember seeing the alien from E.T. as an image way before I actually saw the film.
Sure.
I think. Because he has got quite a distinctive face, actually. He doesn't really look much like any other alien.
Never met my grandmother. Sorry, Gran.
And of course, like, because it became the symbol of Spielberg's company, didn't it? Amblin Entertainment,
yeah.
which is the Elliot on the bike with the E.T. in the basket.
Yeah.
Is the logo to the company.
I guess it is so ingrained in pop culture that you do get exposed to all this stuff without really realising.
Yeah.
So I remember the first one I watched, I remember clearly watching Jurassic Park for the first time.
Yes, I'm with you on that, yeah.
Because that was 93, wasn't it? We were 7, 8-ish at the time.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have seen it at the cinema. I can't remember if I saw it at the cinema, but I remember seeing it at home, and I remember being absolutely terrified of it. And I couldn't sleep for ages. And I even remember one time I got for my birthday The Lost World by my nana. She gave it to me on DVD or video for my birthday, and I cried because it brought back memories of Jurassic Park because it was so terrifying for me. I hated the thought of.
Oh, it wasn't a nice thing. It was a.
No, it was. It was a. I couldn't like. It was so. I remember it being so tense, and I remember it. I remember the thought of being eaten by a T-Rex just is a constant haunting nightmare for me. It was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
But that's what he managed to do so well, to create that. He creates tension so well. That scene in Jurassic Park, the Velociraptor scene, where the kids are running from it in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It's just a masterclass in tension, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So good.
That's classic. Yeah. That's classic sort of Hitchcockian technique done really well.
Yeah.
So I remember, because I sort of avoided your question a little bit and started talking about the alien, but the one I can clearly remember going to watch the movie and people said this is a Steven Spielberg film is exactly the same. It's the first Jurassic Park. Part of being an 80s kid is having all the action figures and stuff, which obviously again came from Star Wars. You didn't really have so many action figure stuff associated with movies coming out, but I can remember trying to collect nearly every one of the Jurassic Park ones. The dinosaurs themselves were so cool. I do remember having the little boy Timmy had that as an action figure.
Okay.
And it looked nothing like the kid in the movie.
Okay.
It looked more like Demi Moore. a Bob Beatles haircut. He's not wearing the same thing.
Did you have a Demi Moore doll?
Maybe it was some bootleg.
G.I. Jane.
G.I. Jane, yeah, who knows?
So, we've got a list here of his back catalogue of all the movies he made that we're going to go through, and it's quite a big endeavour actually to talk about all of these movies. We're doing them one by one rather than all in one mega podcast. So, but there's over 30 of them. Out of these ones, what are the ones that you are most looking forward to revisiting again?
I am excited to tell people about the Sugarland Express because being, a film geek, it's always good to see where people have come from.
Yeah, so this was his first movie, and that's going to be the first one we talk about.
Yes, that's his first theatrical feature. I'm looking forward to seeing Close Encounters of the Third Kind again.
You know what? I've never seen Close Encounters.
Really?
No, I know. It's one of those. Looking through the list, there's so many I actually that passed me by, or I thought I'd seen, but I really haven't.
I'm really excited to watch 1941 because I have never seen that one.
Okay.
It got Spielberg, who was a boy wonder, basically, a little bit untouchable, a bit like Tarantino or something in our generation. But 1941 came out and it absolutely bombed, and Spielberg was in trouble for a couple of years there, and nobody would sort of lend him enough money to make films at the budget that he needed.
Yes.
So I'm interested to watch that, put it into some context and realize and sort of see why why that came about. How about you? What films are you looking forward to?
So my favourite of these that I'm looking forward to is Munich. Have you
Right.
seen Munich?
I have seen Munich, yes.
I love that. It's one of my favourite films. I think it's absolutely brilliant. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that again. But that's very much one of his more serious films, and one of his more adult films, rather than it doesn't have a lot of them are very or involve children quite a bit. But that one is much more one of his adult ones. And the other one I'm looking forward to seeing again is... I'm looking forward to seeing E.T. again. Because I haven't seen E.T. since I was a kid.
Yes, it's been a few years since I've seen E.T. actually.
And because I was older when I had seen it, it didn't really... it wasn't as important to me growing up as it was to a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to seeing that again and with fresh eyes. And I guess the other question that we haven't mentioned is, has he... Well, actually, you touched on this a little bit. Has he made a bad movie? I mean, there's 37 or so of those on there.
It depends.
And they've had different matters of critical success or not, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad movie.
It depends on your... Yeah, exactly. It depends on your definition of a bad movie, doesn't it? As I say, I mentioned 1941 because basically, a lot of people want to sort of forget that film ever happened.
The one film that I definitely want to forget is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. So apparently, I don't know if you knew this, but there was a fourth Indiana Jones film.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. It didn't do very well at all. I remember being very disappointed by that. Didn't really like it much at all.
Yes, I'm going to have to...
But I saw it once at the cinema, and I haven't seen it again. That was... How long ago was that? That was 10 years ago now. Oh my God, it's been 10 years since Indiana Jones 4.
Wow.
So I would want to see that again. Sorry, Stephen.
Yeah, please forgive us.
You know they're making another one.
Yes.
Harrison Ford signed on to Indy 5.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, we've gone on for quite a bit, but I hope you enjoy listening to this. I think a good thing might be to do is try and get hold of these movies while we're watching them and try and watch them with us for each episode. So before you see number one, try and watch the movie at home and then have a listen and see what you think. See if you agree with us.
You forgot to mention the name of the film there. The Sugarland Express is the first one to watch.
And also get in contact with us as well. Follow us on Twitter at Big Boat Podcast.
Yes, Twitter wouldn't let me have The Bigger Boat Podcast. It's too many letters. So that is why it is at Big Boat Podcast.
No, that's so frustrating. And you can also email us on, Joey?
thebiggerboatpodcast@gmail.com.
So please get in touch. We are very happy to read your emails. And if you have any specific questions that you want to ask or anything, bring up anything that we've mentioned on the show, just let us know.
We will find a book that will answer your questions.
Yeah, we will look on Google. So look forward to hearing from you guys. Okay. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.